Travis Wayne Goodsell, I must set the record straight right up from the front. I have been desperately trying to get a hold of President Trump to notify him of the conspiratorial plot to have him assassinated. And I am unable to get through to him. All my attempts to send him notification have been blocked. I have gone through the presidential contact, the Attorney General, the FBI, and Homeland Security. And I cannot get through to the President of the United States of America to warn him of the imminent danger he is in. I have done the research and came across this plot. The research was on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When the church chased me out for having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, I began researching church history. Being born and raised Mormon, I knew what they told me to believe. And I'm well aware that indoctrination as a youth tends to skew your view. But as a Mormon, I was the first group of seminary students to learn how to study. So coupled with my public school education, I became the foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, which allows me to go into any time period of any civilization using any of the fields of science under that umbrella to do research. Thus why I'm able to use that for studying church history. The reason why I was studying church history was because of a neighbor when I was living in West Valley City who asked me right before Sunday school one Sunday if I knew that Joseph Smith had a pistol when he was in Carthage jail and got assassinated. I said, yes. My third great-grandfather, John Solomon Fulmer, gave him his pistol. The Fulmer family has passed that down through the generations. We all know this. We also know that Joseph Smith was not a polygamist, that he was married to those women he's been accused of after he died. I've got the black book of marriages done by Brigham Young. But I didn't tell him about that part. And so he said, well, did you know he had two? And I said, I did not know he had two. And thus began my research. And as I went over the crime scene of the assassination, I got to a point where I said, oh crap. So I had to go back to the beginning of church history, starting with Joseph Smith Sr. and his wife Lucy Mack with their children in Vermont. and worked my way forward. And in the process, I learned some things, and as I did videos, I noticed that the church would then change the Wikipedia information on that. Trying to cover up and hide the original church history. Then one day, a commenter thought he was going to put me in my place by taking me to what is called the Joseph Smith Papers. It's the church's online site for the publication of all original source documents. And in those documents, I found gold. Not only is Joseph Smith vindicated of all that he has been accused of, but last week, I would then go on to find out that all of the decade of research that I've been doing exposing the Danites, as they called themselves, was all correct, because they themselves were listed among the Joseph Smith Papers, confessing to who they are and to their intentions. The president of the Quorum of the 12 under Joseph Smith, before Liberty Jail incarceration, had filed a petition for a redress of grievances with the state of Missouri to Governor Boggs at the time, exposing these Danites as a terrorist threat. And Governor Boggs issued an extermination order of all Mormons as a result of it. This extermination order was eventually rescinded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, tricking the current government of Missouri. I think it was back in the 70s, maybe the 80s. I'm not going to check online to find the exact date for this video. And as a result of finding this information out just last week, I am able to confirm that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the terrorist organization behind the destruction of the United States of America, just as I've been trying to warn President Trump. The current president, Dallin Harris Oaks, has been leaked for what was never to be known by anybody, just like the plot of the Danites 200 years ago. This leak exposes the church as a religious fraud and a terrorist organization that has been behind everything all around the world. Putin invading Ukraine, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Islam attacking Israel, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Other events in American history, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I tie everything to them because of my research. If you don't want to have people find out that you're a terrorist, you shouldn't leak it. And Oaks got leaked, confessing that they are plotting to overthrow America. His leak involved 2020 and 2021 being a test run for their destruction of the world, to blame Jesus for it. That's why Mormons, who were in attendance at that meeting where he leaked the information that was not supposed to be generally released, had no clue what he was talking about, because they don't do the research on church history. We are not taught the truth about our own church history. So with this in mind, the information that I'm bringing out exposes President Donald Trump. The information directly ties him to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the original puppet masters. This is what they have been doing. They have been working through other groups to get those groups to do the will of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Through the Mormons, who are involved in all of these different groups. This is why I cannot get through to the President of the United States of America. Mormons are everywhere. Mormons are tied to the assassination of President Kennedy. Mormons are directly tied to the Nixon hearings. Right? D. Todd Christofferson. Mormons are everywhere, and the world does not know it. Deep Throat? Remember Deep Throat? From the Nixon hearings? Mormon. Yeah, we're everywhere. And the church uses Mormons to do their will. Not just the obvious ones that are in the public realm. Not just the ones controlling the whole state of Utah. So, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. People are now trying to vilify anybody who recognizes anything contrary to the official report given by Kash Patel through the Utah Attorney General with the hearings. And as I've been going over from the very beginning following this, because this is a huge, high-profile event in American history, the assassination of a public figure who was popular in the state of Utah, with 3,000 Mormons recording the kill shot. And they have the wrong guy in custody and they're pursuing the death penalty of the wrong guy. To simply put it, the kill shot came from that direction, hit the C2 vertebrae, and the blood spilled out the other side. They're claiming that Tyler Robinson was the guy on video without a rifle on that building. Case closed. Tyler Robinson must go free. There's a cover-up that is blatantly obvious. But the prosecution has used his parents turning in their son, because he matched the description of that guy, and are basing their whole case on a character assassination. They have now labeled him an Antifa terrorist. Trans Antifa terrorist. When all he is leaving the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because he's heard things that doesn't make him comfortable. And so his parents, being deeply concerned, turned him in. All of the information doesn't matter. He can come out and say, I want Charlie Kirk dead. I'm going to blow his head off. I've got my grandpa's rifle and I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter. They claim he was on that building, not that one. It doesn't matter. He's not the guy. So the real assassin got away. They're not even going to pursue an investigation because they're going full throttle on Tyler to get a conviction and murder him for something he did not do, to cover up the truth of what happened. I have seen others, Fox News, Candace Owens, a guy who interviewed the Navy SEAL who had the kill shot of Osama bin Laden, all contribute to how this can't be the case, that Tyler Robinson is innocent because of the information they brought out. Even TMZ and a couple of others that I've seen been reporting on this. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints knows who I am because of what they've done to me, because of what I have accomplished. In 2008, I filed a petition for a redress of grievances in the state of Utah against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for which they then turned around and claimed that I was a terrorist and that my petition for a redress of grievances in the state of Utah was a weapon of mass destruction. And I was disappeared in a black site for 6 years of my life. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints ordered the hit and paid for it. I've got the receipt still to this day. The church has attempted to assassinate me on several other times. I've got those receipts too. The church is a criminal operation, working around the world to commit acts of terrorism to overthrow world governments, not just the United States of America. And they've been trying to shut me up, destroy my life, erase my history. And yet, despite all that, here I still am. And I've exposed this whole church. And yet, because Mormons are everywhere, very few people know about it. They stalk me. They cyber terrorize me. In 2020, I sued the church and warned through Bill Barr because of the RICO filing that I filed against the church about their threat to murder President Trump and coup the United States of America. Bill Barr ignored it. The prosecutors who prosecuted January 6ers for insurrection, that was me. Because it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who was behind it all. And they were going to murder Mitt Romney, as the hearings indicated. It wasn't just to hang Mike Pence for his failure. So there are some things you look for with a crime scene. You need to go back before the crime took place. So Charlie Kirk, his Turning Point USA. You've got to find out who he is, what he's been talking about, and what led him to come to Utah. And then the event, and then follow afterward about those in Charlie Kirk's life and what happens to them afterward. It is obvious that the assassin, Tyler Robinson, is not the guy. So pursuing further investigation into his life is worthless. But that's what they want us to do. To divert away from what really happened. You look for a money trail. And it doesn't have to be financial payments. It can be other compensation. For example, I know that Willard Richards and John Taylor were ordered by Brigham Young as backups to make sure that Joseph Smith was assassinated in Carthage jail. They were rewarded beyond other Mormons. The assassins that went on trial were acquitted and weren't really rewarded. They got new pants to replace the ones that had the hole from Joseph Smith's 6-shooter that he had obtained. From Willock, I believe was the name. That was not really a reward. But Willard Richards, yeah, he was made the number one with Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball, and was directly involved in altering church history documents, creating forgeries, and going with Brigham Young and the Vanguard Company when they fled the country to come to this valley to murder the natives and claim their kingdom. and he was involved with the ceiling cover-ups. As I found out the other day that John D. Lee of the Mountain Meadows Massacre that was portrayed on American Primeval was the clerk of those polygamous ceilings to the dead Joseph Smith. And then John Taylor, oh yeah, he was greatly rewarded. The year before Brigham Young died, Brigham Young changed the order of rank in his 12 apostles to make John Taylor the one who would become the president when he died the next year. Because the one who was demoted was unfaithful in 1838's coup plot against Joseph Smith, causing the Mormon War, the Danites. Plus, he never agreed with Brigham Young that Adam was Heavenly Father. And so, Erika Kirk, I've paid attention to. Obviously, she does not spring out as an assassin, but she's the wife. And following the assassination, I was deeply concerned about her lack of grief over the assassination of her husband, her now being a widow, having to raise kids on her own. President Oaks, for example, his father died when he was a young boy. Her mother was left alone. Back in those days, women really didn't have much rights, especially in Mormon country. And so because of her grief, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints called her mentally retarded and locked her away in an asylum, drugging her. And so thus, as the son, President Oaks is now exposed as having tardive dyskinesia from the drugs from psychologists. But people grieve in their own way. When the original wife I had with 3 kids abandoned the marriage, stole my research, fled the country, and tried to frame and blame me for it, I went into shock immediately, wandered around the home, and then would go to sleep, wake up, go to work. And I don't remember how many days later, when I was driving to work, and I finally cracked because of the Dixie Songs chick. She's 4 and he's 2, and you know they adore you. That triggered a breakdown on the freeway, and I had to pull over to the side of the road. But I have not seen her break down. I have seen entertainment tears. That concerns me. I do not connect her with the assassination. But, as part of a conspiracy, she has to be investigated. She was greatly rewarded. She's now the president. carrying on the work of her late husband who was assassinated as a martyr for Jesus. I catch on to those things. And so yesterday, I learned from Nikki Swift, who I've seen some of her YouTube videos about popular celebrities. She's a gossip columnist. But the few that I've listened to her about are legitimate. She does her research. She doesn't just make stuff up like a regular tabloid journalist would do. And so when she came out and made the connection to President Trump, I paid attention. President Trump was immediately notified of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And he got leaked on Fox News and through posting on several occasions thereafter. They've got a suspect in custody. We learned first from President Trump. For example, Nikki Swift brought out that Erika was one of President Trump's Miss Universe pageant contestants. She may have even been crowned. Trump knows her personally. You know, like walking into the locker room personally. And in case you are unaware of the bigger picture, that for some reason you've missed the news about Jeffrey Epstein and the connection to President Trump and the attempts to force the Epstein files to be released, when I've got my own copy. I know everybody that's on it. I knew Prince Edward was on it. He's in it. I've got the list. Epstein's little black book. I am well aware. And so I don't understand why everybody is demanding to have the blacklist released when it's already been released. It's available for everybody online. Nonetheless, it is the victims that we do not have the full list of. Those who are pursuing the criminal case, who are demanding to release the Epstein files, to hold these men accountable. This is a small number of women, of the total number of women who were involved. Many women are not listed. And so, yes, there were a number of hotels, islands, with plane trips that are all involved in the sex trafficking of little girls. And Erika Kirk comes out as having been tied as a little girl to President Trump with the Miss Universe pageant. Trump got leaked, as he said, that Epstein stole his sex trafficked girls from Mar-a-Lago. Just shut your mouth. Just shut it. Don't leak. Stop. Nonetheless, it is obvious that his Miss Universe pageant was to have those girls involved with this worldwide sex trafficking. And Erika Kirk was among it. And Donald Trump was especially involved with the assassination of her husband. But like I said, I've already tied it to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who want that to happen. We're involved in all of it. Governor Huntsman Jr., who was also the U.S. ambassador to Russia and the U.S. ambassador to China, who was also the governor back in 2008 when I was sent to a black site. He's on the Jeffrey Epstein blacklist with his wife. Those adopted kids, huh? Exactly. There is a great interest in teasing the Epstein files and extending it for as long as they can milk it. Because it is a diversion from what is actually going on. As millions of Americans are now going hungry. America is crashing and burning to the ground on purpose because of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who, by the way, with their trillions of hoarded dollars, are going silent while everybody suffers during this. They have nowhere near enough to provide food through their welfare square that, yep, President Trump visited back in 2017. They, through the secret organizations of the Council for National Policy and all those involved in their particular groups to do their particular thing to destroy America and the world, are getting President Trump to be the actor in the public eye, to do their will. That's why they promised him that he would not be prosecuted, and got him reelected. He was supposed to have it done for the church's April conference, and he failed. And then for the October conference, and he failed. And that's why now it's escalated. And there is no stopping it now. Trump is going forward with their 200-year-old plot. He is doing everything the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wants. And yes, as a born and raised Mormon, I've been doing research on the Book of Mormon. And for full disclosure, both Mormons and ex-foes, as I call them, excommunicated and former Mormons, unitedly don't believe me. They don't do the research. I did. The Book of Mormon exposes the Danite plot in great graphic detail. even to give calendar dates and clock times of when they plan to strike with certain activities. So Oakes declaring a test run for 2020 and 2021 in his leak threw off the time frame. That may have been my fault. Exposing the timing back in 2017 and then the lawsuit in 2020. I served the church. Just less than a month, little more than a week after I sued. It was like maybe 2 weeks or so. It was the 24th of February. The leak was on the 14th of March. And so, yes, the person who had COVID from the cruise ship in Japan was sent to the wrong hospital to treat him. He should have gone to the U of U, where they were doing the research for a vaccine. He would have been the perfect test candidate to use for the vaccine. Instead, they took him to the other hospital, the Intermountain Medical Hospital, which is right where the crossroads of my travel was. So I'm well aware of their attempts to assassinate me indirectly. All different ways have been used, not just one at a time. Multiple, just like Trump. Multiple projects he's trying to get passed to divert away and to force the deep state Dems to choose which path that they'll focus on and die on. I'm well aware of Trump's tactics. I'm well aware of his art of the deal. Apparently everybody else forgot about it. That's why they used Trump, because Mitt Romney lost to President Obama. So they had to go to another person to be the president of the United States in 2016's election. That was Trump. All right there in the Book of Mormon, by the way. You'd have to watch all my 9,000 videos to assemble them all together, to put the pieces so that you would see the bigger picture of what I've been going over. So, yeah, that is the breaking bombshell news that Nikki Swift brought out. It was just her little piece of the puzzle that I am able to take and put into the whole puzzle that I've been assembling. So with Candace Owens's, I think it was also last week, she was able to obtain another Mormon's cell phone recording of the kill shot at an angle that showed the one employee for Turning Point who had the backpack was the son of the preacher, and the preacher got up at the pulpit and said his son called him the moment Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Candace Owens found the video in which he instantly was on the phone to his dad and then slowly walked away while everybody else was rushing and panicking and fleeing. He was the one calm, cool, and collected. That's also something you pay attention to during a crime scene. And so, yes, there was an inside plot. Exactly how it was fully involved with, still working on that. But there is clearly an inside job that involves President Trump and Erika. So that is where we are with that. But remember, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is directly involved. This is why Governor Cox took over as the spokesperson for the assassination and went to the funeral to make sure that he got to speak, to be overly condemning, to ignore evidence and chain of custody and evidentiary procedures to assassinate a fellow Mormon. Governor Cox is a direct descendant of those Danites who framed and blamed and murdered Joseph Smith, by the way, along with Senator Lee of John D. Lee infamy, as well as Curtis and the former Stewart. Romney was a converted Danite, not a direct Danite, of Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball's conversion. So when I do my research for Mormons, trying to convince them that the church is evil, I will go over actual church history research with them about a specific character from church history and help them try to understand how to recognize who they are by their connection with the Danites. Were they a direct Danite? Were they converted by the Danites? Or were they an outsider Mormon who was vilified by the Danites? That's what I do my research with. That's one of the tests that I perform to find out who this person is and what their impact was in church history. And likewise for the assassination. And so Curtis, Lee, and Cox all came out and protested too much against whoever did it. And like I said, Governor Cox let the assassin go, as well as Kash Patel, who continues to provide mountains of evidence that are fruit of the poison tree. That direction. So to cover some other stuff for Utah, most of the food pantries have run out. This was expected. The pantries can't handle an emergency. Pantries are only able to do day-to-day operations, not an emergency. And so this emergency has drained the shelves. They are dependent on donations. The federal government has cut off donations to the pantries, and so the public have to donate, but it's the public who are in the emergency. So the rich have to donate. If the rich don't donate, the pantries don't have the food anymore. The food is only for a month, and it only lasts for about a couple of weeks. Depends on what is donated. And so it is insufficient for the needs in this emergency. And the reason why the federal government is shut down is, like I said, the Book of Mormon tells us it was supposed to be shut down. So Wednesday, come Wednesday at midnight, And probably some time, if we're going to do an actual precise timing, it would be Tuesday. In 2018 to 2019, Trump broke the record for the longest federal government shutdown in history. And he's set to break it this week. So pay attention to that, as he is tied as a tool of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to get their kingdom back and destroy the whole world, not just the United States in the process. Because when America falls, the world falls. We all know this. America has the mightiest army on the face of the earth. And if the enemy can destroy America, it's fair game for Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un, Mohammed bin Salman, and others who are waiting to pounce, who've already been meeting, who've already held their councils, forcing the European League of Nations to gather together to form a counter-resistance for what Putin has already begun the attacks with. Drones are not little toy helicopters flying automatically. These are weapon-carrying threats that he's sending in to NATO territories. He's declared war. And he will lie, say, I didn't attack you guys. You blew up my drones. You started the war. Whatever, Putin. Whatever. Former KGB, and you expect us to believe you're innocent. Whatever. Whatever. I started last night watching Americans again. Kerry Russell. It is disturbing how they groom Russians as kids, just like Erika, Kirk, to do their evil, to brainwash her into thinking that Americans are all evil, as she herself is represented, saying, Americans are soft, I see their weakness. And the husband says, I don't see what's wrong with Americans. Do we really have to be Russian spies? Can't we just confess and get $3 million? Yeah, it was a well-performed FX show. But yeah, I see that. And it's not just Russians that have been doing it to America. China has been doing it, and other nations. Islam have been doing it as sleeper cells in America when they rose up on October 7th to expose their whole plot that they've been planning since the 60s, when the United States issued the Asylum Act for Islamists to come to America. Islam took advantage of that as part of their plot to spread themselves throughout the whole world, to rise up in number, popularity, rank, and into government around the whole world. And so the UN that helped establish Israel in Israel now has turned against them, and were actually responsible for October 7th, as we'd come to find out, giving aid and comfort to Hamas for that attack. So, yeah, Pennsylvania has now added themselves to the list of states declaring an emergency over SNAP as well. So, there I have it. We are looking at some rough times ahead, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has gone silent on purpose. I can make a video because he channels the talks of Oak's past that can tie in to something to talk about. So that may be coming today with what he and his wife talked about last night.